How come most startups fail, even when we have more tactics and strategies than ever before? Join the bedside chat of an entrepreneurial couple as they share what it takes to create a business with ease and in flow.
Welcome back to another Biz in Flow bedside chat. I'm Natasha
And I'm Jachym.
And we're back in our home turf.
Back at home. How does it feel?
Home sweet home. Feels good.
Nothing like home,
yeah,
right?
But it's just always so strange because whenever we do return home from a trip, it's usually kind of late.
Yeah, very true. And these ladies past midnight again.
Again, late owls, night owls. So what have we, night owls, been up to today?
Well, besides traveling, we did work on the business again, so that was good.
Way to go, eating... What are you eating? A pill for your for your immune system right before starting this podcast. Way to go, Jachym.
Very good, right?
But yes, tell me more.
Well, actually, I think you learned a bit more than I did.
Why do you think that's so?
Because, no, actually, it's not true. What I learned today was that we both were feeling like we were holding the other person back or not providing the appropriate value. So that was quite interesting.
That was actually hilarious because we were sitting there at dinner and Jachym pretty much said, you know what, I think I'm doing nothing. I feel like I'm giving you all the tough tasks and hard work to do and I'm just doing nothing. And then I was like, what? Is that how you feel? Because I feel like I give you all the terrible tasks and I'm doing nothing and I'm getting nothing done. So it's really funny to see how in our own realities we were projecting how we were failing on our own, right? That we weren't contributing enough and that the other person was just carrying all the load. But we were projecting that on each other, which makes no sense.
Yeah. But it kind of came about from feeling that I was doing some of the tasks I was doing, like writing description for the podcast or, writing the bullet points or description for another Internations event and you having to edit all of it for a very long time.
It wasn't that long.
Felt like I was incompetent.
Can I do anything at all?
Exactly. And then I'm just creating more work for you.
Mm-hmm.
And so one thing we realized is that we have to sit together and explore what are the things that we're actually good at and what is it that I'm good at and what is it that you're good at, and then kind of structure the tasks to that.
Mm-hmm. You, after this conversation, you looked at me like you have just had an epiphany. And you were like, Natasha or Natty, I think I'm the right person in the wrong seat. And it looked like you had this huge realization. What was that about?
Well, we are reading this book called Traction, and the guy says you can have two different kinds of people problem. You can have, there's more than two, but basically you can have the right person in the wrong seat of the company, basically doing the wrong role. You can have the wrong person in the right seat, so they don't actually align with the company's values and they are going to be harmful in the longer term. They do deliver because they're good at what they're doing. And then you can have the right person in the right seat. And I was like, we have a right person in the wrong seat problem here.
Mm-hmm. And of course, this is not something that's new to this podcast, right? We've shared about how, we've noticed that we definitely have different strengths and weaknesses and how we've been able to kind of work with that. But as more and more tasks and responsibility come up within the work, and that's so natural for solopreneurs, you begin to actually learn a lot more about yourself and you begin to notice, okay, what I thought was true, I might need to revisit it. I might be a lot worse at this task than I originally thought. Because now that I do it regularly, I do have to do this a lot. you might realize, okay, I actually do need to give it away to someone else to do, or I might need a great deal of time to actually learn so that I get it right.
Yeah, and knowing that does make the process a bit simpler.
Mm-hmm. So then we had another I guess strategy meeting today.
Yeah, kind of unofficial.
And what happened there?
Well, we realized that there are the two different kind of strategies. The long-term strategy, which is something that is gonna come to fruition over a longer period of time. So, for example, social media, the whole online marketing, it usually takes a bit of time for it to come to fruition, for people to notice, for you to build a following and all of that. And then there's the more kind of short-term gains or short-term strategy where, well, it's more kind of short-term money and long-term money, I guess, where in the short-term money you make sales now so that you can invest more into the company. And we have not been really discussing that very much.
Yeah.
And so realizing that, I was like, right, so we have been setting up all those long-term things, but we haven't actually discussed at all about the more short-term goals or the short-term gains, the short-term sales that we can make. Mm-hmm. Sales, yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think this is a really interesting topic because both strategies, they're very different. So for someone who might be comfortable with this long-term strategy, right, where you build relationships like through multiple touch points, and you're being consistent, and you're finding your voice, and you're starting to broadcast, right? You're trying to spread what you believe in, what it is that you wish to share with the world through your business. Now that's one avenue, right? But then it's a completely different game to actually shorten the sales process, to do lead gen in almost quite an aggressive way, right? And to look at the numbers and try to hit it in a very limited amount of time, or in very short sprints. So I can imagine that this actually takes a whole different set of skills, or it's a different type of work, I would say.
Yeah, well, we'll be exploring it, and we'll of course keep updating you about that. But it was just good to kind of realize it and start looking at it and start looking at the different options that we have and what we can offer and what we want to offer in a more short-term kind of time.
Oh my goodness.
Sorry, it's kind of a lie.
You sounded as long-winded as me today. Me as usual. Now, okay, so this is, I find it really fascinating, this short-term versus long-term. Because, in many episodes in the past, we talked about how, it's not all just about the money, you got to focus on what it is that you really want to share. And one of the conversations that we had today, which might be really interesting for you listeners to hear, is how our long-term vision is to create something that's quite affordable, that's available, I guess, en masse for many people at the same time. It could look like a course, it could look like a membership, but that's ultimately what we want to head towards. Now, if we're looking for short-term income or profit and looking at designing programs or services that are like very much in the near future, in the next month, in the next 3 months, that might not be completely aligned in the vision of the products that we were hoping to create at the very end, right? So how should we even balance that? Because we brainstorm a bunch of ideas of the things that we can offer, but it's interesting because we're kind of on this seesaw of balancing the short-term gain or short-term gain and game and the long-term.
Well, I don't really see it as a conflict as you're seeing it, because we are targeting, the idea is to do live events like through Internations, through Meetup, through doing Facebook ads, and then funneling those people into talks that they come and hear us talk, and we do an upsell from there. And for me, at the price points that we kind of start discussing, they don't look very high to me because we are in Switzerland. And when we're talking about online enrollment, where basically people are joining from everywhere around the world, then of course you're gonna want to have maybe a slightly different kind of price point. Now, but even then, when you have a different kind of price point, you're still gonna miss out on people, because let's say you make a membership for $50 or $60. That is very affordable for most of the developed countries, right? But you get lots of people who are not going to be able to afford it, who are coming more from countries who aren't as far and who don't have the kind of salary structures that we have, right? So there's always going to be people who are going to miss out. And sure, we can also discuss there, are we going to create programs or something that is affordable for those kind of people as well?
Yeah, I guess what I'm trying to point towards here is that if we set our minds on a certain financial goal that we wish to reach, there are pretty much just two ways you can go about doing it. You can do it through very low quantity and extremely high ticket pricing, or you can go extremely high a quantity, amount of enrollment and number of sales, and then just a little much lower price point. So I think what I'm pointing towards here is that even though our long-term vision is to have more quantity and help as many people as possible, like to impact a lot of people, maybe for the short run for now, just for the simplicity and for the infrastructure that we have for now, right? And for the testing that we want to do also, like we don't want to overwhelm ourselves with lots of enrollment and then have to deal with like customer service and refunds. I don't know if we want refunds, but like that sort of thing that comes along with just a lot of traffic, right? A lot of flow. So it's interesting how you can begin to shift what you originally thought is your goal to actually mold it into what's relevant and what's required now. And it might not always fit what you thought was going to be the way.
Yeah, I think it's a way of being flexible in your thinking and not getting attached to your original kind of idea, so that you can pivot along the way and create something that makes sense for now.
I can imagine that for someone who, I guess, is in a similar situation as where we are right now, quite at the beginning. What are we? Only like a month into this business? Yeah, barely. And we're thinking about, not only long-term strategy, but also the short-term profits that we want to make, the financial goals we want to have, right? And how we go about doing that. Now imagine someone who's starting, maybe it's their first entrepreneurial gig. What would you think would be the biggest hurdle when they're trying to meet both goals, the short term and the long term, and trying to figure out, which service or product should I do? And that, like you say, you can do high ticket or I can do high quantity. There's so many choices, right? There seem to be so many different paths you can do to actually reach the goal. So what do you think would be the difficult part of this very moment?
Well, I think it depends on what kind of business we are talking about. If we are talking about our expertise, which is coaching, focus on your first sale. Just get a first sale, because you want to actually have I don't like to say the confidence, but basically
go through the motions.
Go through the motions, have the confirmation that you can actually do the sale, or you of course you can do the sale, but you might need certain practice, and just going and doing that, I think, is very healthy, so you can actually see for yourself, I sold one person an hour or a small package, whatever it is that you're doing, before you are deciding on any kind of strategy. And
to just test out.
Yeah, exactly.
It's almost like a hobby at the beginning.
Yeah.
Okay.
You test it, and if you're starting out as a coach, the entrance level of getting into being a coach is very, very low. However, the success bar is very, very high. Not that many coaches actually become successful coaches in the sense that they can live of it and make a living with it. And so the most important thing is to see it more as a long-term strategy. I know you might have been sold like, oh, you become a coach, you can make this X amount of money and all of that. But just look at it more as a long-term thing. It's a marathon that you're running. And yes, of course, you want to have paying clients. But if you are just jumping ship and thinking you're just going to make the living off right away, I wouldn't necessarily recommend that.
Mm-hmm. I guess what I would add is that a lot of us may be quite comfortable with our skills or what it is that we want to provide. But if you're looking to get the short-term gain or the financials in quite at the beginning, then something that you gotta really win at is actually lead generation.
Yeah. And
just to get masses in, it might be different if you're looking at high-end ticket, but there's a reason why high-end products are so few. Is because out of the whole population of the world, few can actually afford it. So in that sense, you might need a mass so that you can filter through people who can actually afford your service, or you need to get really, 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 honed down on the people who can actually afford your service and who are really your people. But without lead generation, without meeting new people, without getting new people through the door, you can't sell them anything. And no matter how great of a service you have, if you don't have their attention, if you don't have new people constantly flowing through to get to know you, to get to know your product, it's just going to be a ghost town.
Yeah, and you got to understand who the hell you're selling to.
Mm-hmm.
Like, what do they want? And why should they hire you? Or why should they work with you? Or why should they buy your product? What's going on? You have to really listen.
Mm-hmm. So these are quite fundamental pieces that we have always touched on.
Mm-hmm.
Like, get good at actually the value that you are providing to people. So I think the recipe is quite simple. You need leads, right? New people. If the people who are in your Facebook group or who you've started following you on social media, if they're all just your friends and family, most likely when you do launch something, even if you have a good amount of people, they're not going to buy from you because it's not your people, right? So you need fresh blood. You need just new people who are interested in what you've got to give, and that's really important. So that's one piece of the puzzle. And another one is that you got to know, for these leads, what it is that they want. Like, they're coming to you for a reason, and you better know why and how you can provide that to them.
Yeah, but just to say also, please don't be that desperate person on Instagram writing in the comments that the person should get in touch with you because you're so awesome or whatever they write. Don't treat people like, just money banks, cash machines.
Yeah.
Treat them with respect. Treat them like you want to be treated, and pay attention. This is actually something really good. Pay attention to the people that put you off with their sales tactics or whatever it is that they're doing. Pay attention to them because you can learn what not to do.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And if you're the type of person who actually wants to create good from your business, and you have like a heartfelt intention, or you know that your business is not just about money, then but yet you want to reach a financial goal, this is really key, that you realize people buy from you when you've shown them the value. For us, even if we're doing lead generation, we pretty much expect that we've got to give our best. People need to be impacted from us. We don't actually expect anyone to be impressed or to buy from us or to invest in our services unless we've proven ourselves to them. Not to prove as in, oh, look at me and I'm this and that and I gotta show you, but prove to them as in we've allowed them to experience what we have to give and how much we can help, and the impact that is truly there. Now, once you have that, it's a no-brainer that people will buy from you. If they're the right clients, like if you're actually the one to solve their problem, right? And the problem is clear, then there's no way that they'll say no to you, right? But first you gotta prove to them that you can give them what they want, and that's only through an experience. And so value, the more value you give, the more value you'll receive yourself.
Yeah, so think about, let's make it very practical, think about how are the different ways that you can provide value. Brainstorm, write down ideas. So for example, if you're a coach and you want to enroll someone in a package, how can you demonstrate your value? Is it going to be through videos? Is it through going on a discovery call where they can experience the impact of your coaching session? Is that going to be several sessions till you actually do the proposal? Or maybe it's just one-off session. I don't know. That's up to you to decide. If you're not a coach and you, I don't know, have a clothing store or whatever, how can you provide value for your customer that they can experience your product that inspires them to buy? Mm-hmm. Because, for example, for us, when people come to our event, they have made time, they're coming here, they have an experience with us, and then they are already warm in that sense, and most likely they have liked what we presented at our event, so it is much easier then to provide some kind of offer that could be interesting for our audience.
Mm-hmm. So I hope that this episode has really helped you to see how you can not only play the long-term strategy to build up your brand, to make deep and trusting relationships with your audience, and to begin to have a wonderful reputation as an expert in your field. Now, that's going to take time and that's going to take work. So before you get there, what are you going to do to make sure that you can live from this, right? So take a look at the few pieces, the recipe that we have shared with you for making short-term sales and to do impact while you're at the early stage of your business. And so make sure that you are very clear on what it is that you're helping people with, what value you're bringing, and what exactly you're solving for them. And from there, once you have that, just find people, doesn't matter from where, but find new leads, find people you've never met before, get people to be able to access what you've got. And now once they're there at that stage, just give, show them the value, let them feel it, let them experience it, and then that in itself is going to be pretty much half the sales conversation. And once you structure and you know what it is that you can and wish to sell, that's pretty much it. And now deliver.
Yeah, and just think about the way that you can do it that is most appropriate for you, whether in the sales process, in showing the value and all of that, but also in whether do you actually want to create short-term gains, or you just want to play the long game and you just want to get a side hustle for now so you don't have any pressure of selling anything. Because the more pressure you feel to sell, the more needy we usually get and the harder it is to actually sell.
Mm-hmm. Always good to know that you have different options, and these are just ideas and thoughts of where we are currently and what we're going through. So that doesn't mean that you have to follow it to the T or that it's even right for you. But what I do want to end this episode with, and everything that we shared so far, is that the most important thing is to take action and test it for yourself, because we don't know what's right for you, you do. And maybe you don't even know what's right for yourself unless you try something and you do it, right? So just like Jachym said, maybe it's not for you, but how do you know? Maybe you want to give it a try, or maybe not. And every step of the way with the whole recipe that I listed for you, you have your own style, you have your own way of finding what's right for you and for your business. So you gotta test it out, and just because something doesn't work out at the very beginning doesn't mean that you failed. It just means that maybe that's not the right path for you right here, right now, and you need something else. So that's really important, no matter what your goal is.
All right, that's it. I'm gonna go to bed.
He's like, shut up so I can sleep. So have a wonderful evening or night wherever you are, and we're definitely gonna go to sleep now.
Good night.
Good night, and we'll talk to you tomorrow. If you want the breakdown of what we have shared in this episode, just head over to bizandflow.com and just search the episode number, and you'll find transcript and other goodies waiting for you. So talk to you tomorrow.
Bye-bye.